Hello and welcome to today's Talk Tuesday. It is January 31st, and I'm Mia Sines, and this is Lori Montry, and we are of the Greatest You Academy. So today's topic is really powerful and big. It's self-devotion, the next level after self-love. With this, with even those wordings, doesn't that allow you to be able to expand into something different and beautiful? So, Lori, let's talk a little bit about self-love and let's talk why devotion is now the next level. But let's talk about self-love for, I know all of you understand it, but we want to lay it out so that then you can see the difference between the devotion, the self-devotion part. So,
Yeah.
do you want to start talking about self-love?
Yeah, we work with so many incredible women who have recognized, right, that self-love is essential to living the life that you want, to feeling complete, to, as we talked about in our recent challenge, to becoming firmly rooted. You can't be firmly rooted. You can't be secure in the world. You can't create from a place of not loving yourself, not having that acceptance, right? And so a lot of people, and it makes sense because in the world we hear so much about self-love, right? And it's beautiful. And so this is never to knock anything self-love related. Like, yes, more of it, we need it. But what I think a lot of people don't understand, and what we're really trying to teach powerfully in this time, is that self-love is just one rung on the ladder. And so a lot of people are like, what's going on? I'm frustrated. I do love myself. I take care of myself. I do self-care. All of these things, but they feel the missing piece, right? It's not that they thought when they got to self-love that everything was going to be so different. And so what we're teaching and what is really important is that self-love is just one step. Like I said, what we're really after and what we can up level to is self-devotion. And self-love, I would characterize it, and Mia, I would ask for your thoughts on it as well. But to me, self-love is, I know who I am. I'm no longer trying to put myself in a box that society or my environment tries to put me in. I accept who I am, and I'm at least working towards being an authentic expression of that in the world with compassion, right? I don't beat myself up all the time when I don't, meet every goal or act in the way that I, want to or whatever. I take care of myself in the sense of, I'm paying attention, whatever. And that is beautiful. And that's what I would say, that's kind of the definition of self-love. Anything to add to that or kind of refine it all in your mind?
Well, not refine, but add, I guess, because or just it's a remedial thing here for everybody. So I've been teaching self-love for 15 years, and I've been trying to practice it before I started teaching it since I was 24. So it's something like 35 or 6 years now. Oh, it is 36 years. Okay. So
Beautiful.
we've heard about self-love starting in the 1980s with Oprah talking about it on her show. And a lot of people are like, well, what is that? It's about healing the trauma, right? Some people are like, I don't have trauma. Well, it doesn't matter if you had a glorious childhood at home. Somewhere along the line, you experienced a disconnect. It could have been bullies on the playground or another experience. It doesn't matter. See, the story doesn't matter. That's the whole thing about the devotion part, is we go through these self-care tools, these self-love experiences to grow who we are, to connect deeply to ourselves. And those of us who have been working it, and I mean working it, this is where the devotion comes in, because there is nothing greater and more powerful than the way I am when I am practicing my craft. My craft is the wellness, body, mind, and spirit of Mia Sines. That's my craft. I'm not talking about Wicca or anything else. I'm talking about the magnificence of living a life that I've created. So this is why Lori and I, one reason why we came together with our magic of our own stuff, our own work, and we came together because it blends so beautifully. Let me mute this line here. It blends so beautifully to honor who you are. So most people in this love industry of learning self-love with themselves forgets about your magnificence. You are a magnificent being. You may not have experienced it before, but you are magnificent. And the way to stay in your zone is to be devoted to yourself. What we have noticed over the years is people go on their journey and they're start working it and they're starting to have healings and releases and growth and wow, conversations with themselves, and they really love themselves, and then they stop. Something stops you and you start to roll down that big hill slowly, very slowly, but then you get to a point where you're like, where am I? Who am I? The devotion part is about not letting go. It's about never releasing that love for yourself, always keeping it activated with the awareness that you're activating it and you're moving forward. You have a devout practice. So having a devout practice does not mean religion, right? Although it often is associated with that because you hear people say, I'm a devout Catholic, I'm a devout Jew, I'm a devout Muslim, I'm a devout. Well, what about to the ethics of who you are? What about to the love of who you are? What about to the nurturing, the support? That's where the devotion, right? Not just devout, devotion to you comes in. When Lori and I have witnessed, and it's no judgment, we hold everyone in this cocoon of love. And when people do start to stumble backwards, we tell them, get up, you've got the ability, and let's move forward. And of course they do, and they start to have to go through the place of, well, am I worthy enough? I went backwards, I don't feel this. Self-love is always who you are, but the devotion to you and to the practice, the self-devotion, is that next level. Because when you have self-devotion, you are not going to give up on yourself and allow your little car to go back down the hill slowly. You're going to put the brakes on and you're going to say, okay, what's going on with me? Right? You've learned this stuff. What's going on with me? Why am I out of alignment? And you're going to recognize where you need to step in. Lori?
Very beautiful. And I love when you remind us about our magnificence. And I just want to add to that, you're magnificent, not because of the things that you do, not because of the things that you have, not because of the way you serve. Your magnificence comes because you're breathing, because your heart is beating, because you are who you are, and accepting that and knowing that the magnificence is there no matter what I'm doing, no matter whether I'm serving or not, because I think a lot of people like, okay, I can feel good about these things, like, and that's an achievement. If they've gone from never really feeling very good about themselves to, oh, I can feel pretty good about myself when I'm doing these things, right? That's an improvement. Good, yay, we're cheering. But there's another level, which is my magnificence simply because I am who I am. I was created when you were being held as that little baby. Your magnificence was not questioned, and you should not question it today at any point. And so we're talking about, self-devotion, obviously having a true practice where your well-being, your everything is put first and foremost, right? And I'll talk a minute about what that looks like as an up-leveled experience, but just understanding, like, I know that there are a lot of times when we start to have this conversation, we can make people's skin crawl when we talk about you being the most important, you being, it's like, wait a minute, doesn't that make me selfish? Doesn't that make me, that's not who I want to be. I want to be somebody who, has all the care and concern about everybody else. Doesn't that make me valuable? Isn't that why people like me? Is because I put them first, right? And so that's something to really be aware of and to look at and to remember that if you're not really taking care of yourself, if you're not putting yourself first, then whatever you're giving is a very watered down version of yourself. So you can kind of think of it like this, like if I'm not taking care of myself, maybe I'm operating at 10% of my capability, of my abilities, of my gifts. And I'm giving away, is a lot. I'm giving away 8 of my 10. Okay, so people out there are getting 8. Well, if you're taking care of yourself and you've got 100% of you and you give half of yourself, right? They're getting 50%. They're getting 50 now. So they're getting so much more of you, even though you're giving away less of a percentage. You're keeping for yourself, but they're getting so much more because you're able to be what you start with before you start giving is so much more than if you're just trying to, give it all away. You have nothing to give, essentially. So practicing your craft, as Mia said, really being there for yourself and showing up, and then within that confines, right, giving to others, they're going to get so much more. So it's not selfish at all. It's actually a really beautiful act of giving and of supplying out in the world to other people. And the way I think of it, self-devotion goes beyond, yes, I like who I am, I'm okay. It's self-devotion is, I think, really tuning in to those needs, right? Understanding what's going on in my internal world, what are my needs, what's the loving action that I need, and then being willing to take it no matter what. And to me, that's the higher level. That's the devotion piece. It's no longer about accepting yourself or being okay with yourself. It's really, truly tuning in, understanding your internal world, knowing what your needs are, and taking the loving action. And if we've not developed a practice of doing that, we don't really know how to do it. And we may think that we are doing it, right? But when you get really quiet and you really take a look at this, I bet there's room for growth here. So the question then becomes, okay, how do I really get in touch with my internal world? And I have a few ideas, but Mia, what do we want to give these beautiful people on the call and the replay today? How do we want to help them? Just one tool of many, because this is something that we teach at length, right, throughout, and is woven throughout the Greatest You Academy. But what is one thing that they can take today to really start to see themselves, as opposed to, just kind of trying to be somewhat aware of what's going on, but really know themselves inside?
So what's been coming to me since Lori started talking on this part of it is your story, your shadows, your inner child work has to be faced. It has to be faced in love from yourself to shift and to change. Recognizing and doing the work allows you to break the energy of your story. So for 15 years, I've talked about breaking the energy of your story. That is whatever storyline is coming up that's creating you to not reach the levels that you need to reach. Whatever's coming forward, you need to break that energy to the place that it does not get in the way and stop you. And when you break it, what happens? When you break something, it's gone, right? It's no longer usable, unless you want to be the Japanese culture that puts things back together with gold. I think that that's really beautiful. But in this case, you need to add the gold, right? The love, the compassion, the nurturing to shift and break that story and let it go. People keep dragging their stories, their albatross with them. And I'm not saying this to be unloving. Look, for years, I spewed my life story on people because I was hurt. And then I learned how not to do that and how to heal it and how to move to the place where we can teach others how to break that energy of that story so that you don't drag it along. So severing that space where you're pulling it again, but you've left it before, you thought you were healed, and then you go back and you find it. Why are you looking for it? That's so two things in the storyline besides these other tools is to be aware of your saboteur and your inner critic. They're not your friends. I'm sorry, they're not your friends, and they never will be, and they're not supposed to be. Your friends are your inner child, your peace, your love, the softness you become, the openness to humanity and to the world. Those are your friends. So getting rid of the limited beliefs within you, the saboteur, the inner critic that stops you, those are the things that I witness all the time that are stopping humanity on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to be aware of that, because once you learn how to shift that, and we teach all of this in the academy, but what we want you to know is once you shift all of this, you can let that go, and you're not dragging it. So your devotion is focused differently.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful skill to learn.
Yeah. And Mia, we have a YouTube video that you did specifically on the inner child.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and that's on the channel. So that would be a great thing, because obviously we can't put putting all the things into one session, but that would be a great place for you guys to go and take a look at that video and just be thinking about, when we talk about the importance of it, what does that look like, right? So that video goes into that a little bit more, really beautifully. And yes, absolutely, right? In order to know ourselves and to understand ourselves and to provide for our needs, we have to see that, story. We have to move out of it and shift. And, one of the things that I have really appreciated in my own practice is, journaling. We talk about it a lot, and people are like, a lot of people are like, not really a journaler or whatever. But when you really understand the intention behind it and what you're actually doing, it can take on a value in your life and be such an important tool for you. And one process for that is to really, sit with yourself, opening yourself to the intention to hear from your inner child, from the parts of you that are experiencing whatever they're experiencing, without judgment, right? Without, oh no, that's not a good thing to think. I don't want to think that. I don't want that to be, something that's floating around in my mind. That's not good, whatever. And setting that aside and just allowing whatever is there to be heard. So maybe, you sit and you open to the intention to learn, and open to the intention to loving yourself more and to hearing from yourself. And in that stillness, what comes forward? It may be your inner child saying, I want to feel secure in the world. It may be your inner child coming and say, I want to be loved no matter what. I want to stop having to prove myself every day. I just want you to love me for who I am. It may come in and say, I'm tired. I'm tired of, whatever this situation or that, whatever it is. But in that stillness and with that openness and that intention, and not in a big old hurry to fix it, right? Or to say, oh, okay, that's bad, right? That's not who I want to be, where, whatever. Really allowing that space, not judging it. And it might be uncomfortable. And guess what? That's where we grow. That's where we learn, is being willing to sit in that discomfort and see everything. Maybe you're going to see something like, I'm not sure if my job is the right job for me. Well, if we're like, ooh, that's uncomfortable. Oh no, what would that look like? And I can't afford to blah, blah, blah. You don't get any access to any information. You just close it all down. Same thing with, is this friendship? Is this relationship? Is this good for me? Well, if you're so worried about getting the answer that you shut out the information or the whatever it is that those parts of you want to share with you, then you're never going to know the truth, right? So we have to create this space of honesty, of intention, and then go into it being willing to see the truth. It doesn't mean you have to act on it immediately. It doesn't mean that it is the truth, right? But if it's there, it needs to be acknowledged and recognized and brought forward so that you, as your higher self, your greatest self, which is what we teach you to be, so that it knows what to do with that information. That self knows. And when you're in that kind of loving atmosphere where somebody is really paying attention to you, where somebody is really hearing you, really understanding you, understanding what your needs are, and taking the action, that's self-devotion, right? That's how we become devoted to ourselves, through our daily practices, through our craft of looking and being willing to see and hear. And when we're ready, take the action, right? We don't, just because we see something doesn't mean we immediately have to act on it. And I think that fear and that thinking and that unwillingness to be uncomfortable and to be uncertain, or to be in a questioning kind of mindset, is something that we run from often, and that prevents us from really understanding ourselves and seeing who we are and what we need.
There's another aspect that was really beautiful. Thank you, Lori. And it got me into this aspect that I think is really important. And that is, if you've done your work on something, or even if you haven't, and your mind is ruminating. Look, I used to be the biggest ruminator, so I get it. There would be times when I'd have days on end fighting with my boyfriend who wasn't there because we had a fight. But I'd still be fighting with him in my head. And so the thing about this, guys, is, ladies, guys, the thing about this is you have to decide when enough is enough. For me, any rumination like that, it's time to stop that. Why? Because it's not healthy for us to continue conversations in our head that no longer serve us. And I'd like to recommend this. Conversations with God, up to and through chapter 8. Read that, study it, read the whole book if you like, book 1, only book 1, not the political book 2 or anything else. Book 1, look at what your soul is asking you to do. Be aware of the conversations and energies that are already existent in your experience. And what are you listening to? Are you listening to the divine, to God, or are you listening to all these other nonsensical stuff that is keeping you distracted from who you are? This is big stuff. I almost cursed. I almost said, this is big shit that we're doing. Literally, it takes you from that space of everyday annoyance living into some graces that you absolutely want to get to.
Yeah, it empowers you. It gets you in alignment with your power. And I'll just say it again. We say it all the time, so we probably think you guys don't need to hear it. But when we say God, we mean a very expansive definition of that, whatever that means to you, the creator, the source of divinity and wisdom and love. And so it could be, any number of things. It's just the word that we're using to really embody that. But yes, and what a beautiful opportunity that you have right now to really look at this and ask yourself, what am I listening to? What am I hearing? And those chapters would definitely be something to spur this on and to give you the opening the door to seeing more of who you are and what you're listening to and what's informing you. So as you can see, self-devotion is so much more than being okay with yourself. It's so much more than a self-care practice. And those are great and those are important. But self-devotion is truly a getting to know the deepest parts of you, honoring them, and knowing that they are, divinity itself, right? That's what it is. So you connecting with that, and knowing that you have this beautiful internal guidance system that you can rely on in every single moment to help you know what your purpose is, to help you be that full expression of whatever it is that you were put here to be. That you get to do that, and you get to be that expression. That's why you were created. So tuning in and really being in touch with that makes you invincible, essentially, right? When you have that, you go about in the world, knowing you're rock solid and you're fulfilled and you have meaning in your life. You're not anxious about how will I handle this? What's good, and none of that is there in that space of connection with your magnificence.
And allow yourself to connect to the divinity, to the life force, to prana, to the universe, to God, to Father, to Mother, to Earth, to whatever is how you believe. Allow that to fill you and support you. You're not alone. You have a higher frequency within you. So tap into that. And I know that those, for some of you, might be way up here in thought. How could I tap into something like that so powerful? It's because you are powerful. I loved when we started out, Lori said, because you're breathing, you are magnificent. And when you look at a human body, it does not typically, if you think about all the animals on the planet that are predators or fast or whatever, agile, they're on 4 legs generally, right? And us humans are just up on 2, and some of us are, got big boobs and a big butt, and some of us are real skinny, and some of us are, we're awkward. And you imagine going into the ocean, say the Pacific, because it's got big waves, it's going to knock you all around. But in that adversity, you're having fun and you jump up and you get out of the thing that could drown most things, right? And you get up and you walk out. How powerful are you as a human? Pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yes.
So think about your magnificence and how, if it's ever stopped you before about being a human, or even think about that. Think about the things that you normally don't think about, and that will take you outside of a box and into the open world.
How beautiful. So, we brought you this topic to kind of open you up to the idea that there is so much beautiful up-leveling that happens when you go from just mere self-love to incredible self-devotion. It is, as we were talking about, something that is very much woven into all of the modules, the 12 modules of The Greatest You, in addition to all the other important pieces that we teach there, from the foundational, getting to know who you are. It's shocking and not shocking how many people come into the academy really not knowing, having that true sense of, this is who I am, right? We're still sometimes trying to figure that out when we haven't been confident, or we haven't been willing to really honor who we are. So from the foundational pieces of who are we, and how our nervous system plays into our transformation, and how overcoming past accumulated stressors and traumas is such an important part. And then we move into the mindset work and the emotional work and the physical well-being, taking care of your physical body, your the way you're eating, the way you're sleeping, the way you're moving, all of the pieces. And then from that point, having connected with your greatest self, we move into, okay, what does your greatest self want to create? How do you want to express yourself out in the world? Here's the step-by-step process for doing that. So it's about, healing, coming home to yourself, really accessing your greatest self, and then creating and accomplishing what it is that you have genuinely feeling like this is my purpose. This is where I find meaning. So, you know, definitely be thinking about this practice of self-devotion. What can you implement? What are you ready to do? Post it in the chat, in the Facebook group. What are you ready to do? What is your intuition telling you is the next important step on your journey towards this beautiful act of self-devotion? And we want to invite you to really consider becoming students of the Greatest You Academy. The Academy is open for new students right now. And we would love to have you in there, where we take you through the self-study. You have the modules, the integration work, and then we have biweekly support coaching sessions with you to really help you integrate the material, answer your questions, etc. So we open that invitation to you. If you're ready to find out truly who is this greatest version of me, and what is he capable of achieving in the world for my own sense of peace and purpose, not to achieve something, right? Then think about that. Talk to us, let us know. And as you're integrating this work that we gave you today, also remember, reach out and get support around it, so that it can be something that actually benefits you. Showing up here, we congratulate you and we honor this effort that you made. It's not a small thing. To just show up and to hear it, but it's not going to transform anything for you. It's your practices, your actual showing up and being in that space with yourself, with curiosity, with honesty, with compassion. That's what's going to move you. So as you're doing that work, make sure that you're checking in with us, letting us know how it's going, and getting support and help through the Facebook group wherever you need it.
And also, I will always be the one to say, I guess, we have brought this down to only $97 a month, guys. That's $323 for 30 days. That's it. And so we brought it down to our rock bottom. In the past, and still currently, I charge $425 for 45 minutes, $425. I also charge a lot less for the Academy people. So know that we have really decided to come together, Lori and I, to support humanity and shift and change. That's why it's the Greatest You. That's why it's about you. And also we have a love program about connection and relationships. That's beautiful. And we will be bringing in the whole self-love journey deeper on the one-on-one and the devotion work as well. So there's a lot for people to grow into as you go along. The devotion worker is definitely for those who have done all of the self-love work and the healing work, and then you step into it. But think about it now. Be devoted enough now to yourself to make that commitment to the beautiful you that sometimes doesn't feel so beautiful. And remember, when I talk about beauty, it's not about, and it is about our looks as well. We become beautiful as we lighten up inside, as we get rid of our crap. As we become happy. So everybody can live a beautiful experience of self-creation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love what you said, you know, even those times when we're not feeling so beautiful, right? And to know that it is possible. I think, yeah, and to know like those times where we don't feel, right, that connection with ourselves, that beauty that lives within us, those times can become this much of our life, you know, a flash here and there, as opposed to places where we spend days, months, years, decades of, you know, feeling mostly that way. It is possible.
Yeah, it is. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. It's beautiful to be with you and spend time with you.
Yeah, we super look forward to seeing you at next week's talk too. And those of you, there's Academy members on this call. So rock on, everybody. All right. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.